Good morning. Hello. I hope you enjoyed this song. Isn't it pretty? Kind of reminds me of Catherine's artwork a little bit. I hear this song on the radio, but it was so awesome to see it put to pictures. I think it was really beautiful. And Pastor Mike and I decided to start a new sermon series. It's been a while since we did a group of messages together, and we're doing it on spiritual laws. So I felt that was an appropriate song to introduce that kind of the idea that physical laws of nature and spiritual laws aren't really separated from each other. It's all God's work of art. It's all God's love. And that we find our love and joy and fulfillment when we can understand and live in accordance to physical laws and also spiritual laws that God created. So, this was an interesting week for me. I think I say that every week. It's been an interesting week. For me, this I realized this month is kind of the year. It's been a year since coronavirus kind of entered our lives. This time of year last year, it was spreading in Asia. And we kind of knew in the back of our minds that it was probably going to come here, but it wasn't real. We weren't shutting things down yet or anything, but it was there. And I think just the knowledge that it's been a whole year was like, for me. And we're still in it. But I try to remind myself to look from God's perspective. And if I actually look from God's perspective at my life in this past year and at our community in this past year, then I can say with full confidence that God has been working, and there have been many amazing, wonderful things happening. And I think that God is guiding us in a beautiful direction. However, if I'm not looking from God's perspective, and if I'm just looking with my own eyes and thinking about the things that I wanted to happen this year and the expectations that I had for what our plans were and the things we were going to do, I can feel discouraged. So I vacillate depending on what I'm focusing on. But this week I kind of wasn't focusing on God. I think what put me in this kind of frame of mind of focusing on the disappointments or the negatives was I had this experience this week where I kind of made a big mistake. So if you're a parent with school-age children, you know that this year has been a stressful year school-wise. And I'm really proud of what we were able to create with our co-op and some families coming together. But it's a lot of work and also thinking about next year, trying to figure out what to do. So we had a plan. It's not a good idea to have plans right now. But anyway, we had a plan that this coming next year that we would try to enroll my daughters back into the same school that they were in before. And but it's really hard to get like preschoolers and kindergarteners in because there's a high demand for that. So I knew it'd be tough to get Annalise into, so we enrolled Mia, and we figured if we can get Mia in, then Annalise will, by sibling priority, naturally get in. So we have to think about this like 8 months in advance to enroll. So make all this effort. We apply for enrollment. And they both get put on a wait list. Annalise is like 50-something down the wait list. But Mia was just 10, so I was like, okay, I bet we've got a good chance to get her in. If we can get her in, then we get Annalise in, everything's good. And a few days after that, we got a text. Mia's been accepted at Free Horizon Montessori. And, click to confirm your enrollment. And so I got excited, and I sent the text to Mike. And then I forgot about it. And 3 days later, the enrollment expired, the enrollment opportunity, and we missed it. And therefore, Annalise missed it. And right now, I don't know if there's a possibility we can get them in again. So when I saw that text, like, your offer has expired, there's no further need to do anything, I was like, no! So I don't know how it is for you when you make a mistake, but I have a feeling that we're all not so different. And I have a really hard time to admit my mistakes and to face them. And when I recognize that I have, like this time, because it was no way that I could avoid or put blame on somebody else, or it was just me, I just feel terrible. And then like, I'm a terrible person. I didn't care enough about my daughters. I didn't plan ahead enough, and if I'd been on top of things, then everything would have worked out. And it's just like, I feel like the bottom of the barrel. It's like this negative spiral. And then I start with that mindset, how else am I going to reflect on this year? Oh man, all the things that we wanted to do and didn't work out, and if we'd planned it better, maybe it would have worked out, and blah, 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 blah. So the more I thought about it, and this is a hint into my message, the more I had give and take with these thoughts and with this focus, the more I lost motivation and energy to do positive things, and the more I focused on the negative experiences. So, I'm sorry, that was not very inspiring. But I bet I'm not the only one who's maybe had thoughts like that in this last week, or the last month, or the last year. So I figure there's something for all of us to learn. So my message today is on the spiritual law of give and take. Or you can call it the spiritual law of relationships. This is one of the first spiritual laws that we are introduced to if we read the divine principle. And the law kind of states that through God's power and energy, his law of creation, his heart and his love, we're designed to exist, to create, and to multiply through our relationships. And this is the technical description from the divine principle, which is a bit wordy, but I feel it's also very helpful to understand. Through the agency of universal prime energy is God's creative force. It's the original energy. The subject and object elements, the two halves of every entity, form a common base and enter into interaction. This interaction, in turn, generates all the forces the entity needs for existence, multiplication, and action. The interaction generating these forces through this process is called give and take action. So through giving and receiving, give and take, all the forces an entity needs for existence, multiplication, and action becomes possible. So we and the entire universe, like the song demonstrated, exists actually only through relationships. Positive and negative ions in an atom allow them to form molecules, and molecules form the basis of everything that we can see and touch, and even the things we can't see and touch. All the ecosystems of the world are held in a delicate balance, a beautiful balance of giving and receiving of all the different elements: air, sunlight, water, nutrients, predators and prey. And it's like the circle of life, right? In The Lion King, Mufasa's telling Simba about the circle of life. And then Simba says something like, but what but we're kind of the top of the food chain, right? And it says no, because when we die, our bodies become the grass, and the antelope eat the grass. So the world is designed in this like incredibly intricate relationships of give and take. This is also from the divine principle. The human body maintains its life through the give and take actions between arteries and veins, inhalation and exhalation, sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves, and so forth. The give and take action between mind and body enables an individual to carry out activities which further the purpose of life. And the give and take actions between husband and wife in a family, among people in a society, between government and citizens in a nation, and among the nations of the world are essential for them to live together in harmony and peace. So, in the way that we are designed, according to God's original purpose of creation and design, we're designed to do this centered on God, all of it. And creation just does it because that's the way they're created. And human beings, on the other hand, have free will, and so along the way, we've messed it up a little bit. But when we do this centered on God, when we interact with others, nature, our surroundings, and also our own thoughts, centering on God, then we feel feelings of hope and fulfillment and joy. But on the same side of that coin, this is our choice. We have free will. God designed us so intentionally. In some ways, I remember as a kid thinking, why can't I just be like the grass or an animal who just automatically always does the right thing? Can't choose to do bad things. It'd just be so much easier. But then we'd just be like a pet to God, or a robot, right? There's no real relationship in there. If we have a spouse or a partner, if we have children, our parents, we want to have good relationships with them, but we also know that we can't force them to love us. We can't program people to do what we want them to do. In some ways we feel like that would be nice, but then also where's the joy in that? If they do everything you want them to do, if they love you the way that we want them to love us, but they're just doing it because we programmed them to, then there's no feeling of inspiration. Wow, they love me. So God is the same. God didn't want to create a human race of robots, right? God wanted to create us with our own free will to choose love, to choose God, to choose to do the right thing in situations. And then God feels like then we're on the same footing. We can understand each other. We can connect to each other. There's real love there. So, but we have this free will. And we have the possibility to choose to interact with things based on self-centeredness, or you could say evil, not always God-centered. We still exist, we still create things, we still multiply things, but the fruits of these actions are not always beautiful. These kind of thoughts and actions and relationships that we create that are not centered on God end up resulting in things like dissatisfaction or frustration or anger or jealousy, apathy, and despair. So we can see that these, kind of where I'm going with this is that the divine principle gives very concrete examples of positive and negative electrons and protons, and our relationships within our family and with the world. But what I actually really want to focus on is the relationship that we have that's not necessarily physical with things. Our thoughts and how they interact with our other people and surroundings, our intentions, our motivations, because these are also actually, while not physically tangible, very substantial things. So what we choose to relate with significantly impacts our experience of life. Or you could say, this is one of my favorite phrases, what we focus on expands. What we have give and take with determines our experience in that moment. Here's one more quote from the Divine Principle. In the created universe, the dual characteristics that make up each being are empowered by universal prime energy to establish a common base. They then engage in give and take action. Based on the forces generated by this give and take action, the dual characteristics construct a foundation for their continued reciprocation. And again, a lot of technical terms, but kind of what this is saying is that once you begin to have a relationship with somebody, or with a thought, or with a goal, then there's a connection there, and it's very easy to it becomes easier to continue to develop that relationship. Now the question is it centered on God or is it centered on something else? This becomes the foundation for the existence of each individual being, upon which the being becomes an object partner to God and is able to generate all the forces necessary for its continued existence. So the point is that what we relate with, what we have give and take with, what we create a relationship with, determines our direction that we're going in. And it also determines the results that we get in life. So then the question becomes, well, what am I relating with? What am I giving my time to? What am I giving my attention to? What am I doing with my thoughts? Where are they going? And where are they percolating? And what comes out of those thoughts? These things influence us so greatly. Just like this past week, for me. My experience of this past week felt very frustrated, very disappointed, very sad, very down on myself. But it didn't have so much to do with actually what was happening around me. It was triggered a little bit by the enrollment thing, which happened. But it was much more about what my mind was doing with that, the give and take that I was having with it. So a couple of weeks ago, I talked about the value of God's Word. And I think this is a very good example of what I'm talking about today. Because when you make the time to immerse yourself in things that are from God, like God's Word or prayer, and you make that a priority, so when you're reading God's words, giving your attention to that, your thoughts are percolating with God's words, then it returns to you, right? You're giving your attention, you're giving your mind, and then it returns to you by influencing your spiritual atmosphere. And from your spiritual atmosphere, that determines how you're going to act and how you're going to react to situations around you and to the experiences in your life. And when your actions are centered on God, then the fruits of those actions will bring about goodness. They'll bring about joy, and they'll bring about fulfillment. So this is kind of one example of how we can direct our energy and our thoughts and our attention, our relationships to things centered on God. But there are so many other things in our life besides that, right? So what do we do with our free time? What do we do when we're sitting next to somebody? What do we automatically start judging that person based on how they look or what we might think about them? Or do we think, how can I create a positive interaction here? This is a quote from the Bible. This is from Matthew 6, 19 through 23. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So I think in a very simple term, this quote is talking about don't focus your time on making money, because money does not go with you, right? Instead, focus on God, because that's where your eternal joy will come from. But what is that, if you put that into practicality, what are you spending your time in your life to accomplish? Because the things that you invest into, the things that you invest your time into and your effort into, what you spend your life relating to is where your heart is going to be. You can't spend all of your life chasing relationships to find superficial love, well, on the side saying, oh yeah, I love God and God is my treasure in heaven. But if all your time and energy is on Tinder or trying to find somebody to receive some kind of feeling of love from, that's where your heart is. The results of your life can't be separate from the things that you spend time with, the things that you have give and take with. The things that we choose to relate to and focus on our life will determine our experience of life. The results of our life won't be separate from what we focus on. This verse continues, the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? This isn't talking about cataracts or glaucoma or the physical health of your eyes here, okay? I think it's talking about what are you looking at? Where is your focus in life? And if you're focusing on God and becoming God-like in your life, then you will become a light. But if we're looking at things that are not healthy to be looking at, if we're focusing on the negatives in our life, if we're spending too much time searching sites on the internet that are not pleasant, we can't exude light, right? There's a result. It's a spiritual law. The spiritual law of relationships, the spiritual law of give and take. The things that we look at, the things that we focus on, the things that we invest our time and energy into are not separate from the results that we have in our life. So here's the pitfall for many people. I think that a challenge is that many of our interactions and the things that we relate with, we don't actually intentionally choose to do it because we're creatures of habit. Many times we're just on autopilot, or without intending to, we do the things that make our body comfortable. Instant gratification. Now the goal would be to have our autopilot coordinates set on God and very healthy habits, so then it becomes easy, right? This is the value of a life of faith and practicing faith in our life, because it becomes easier over time. It becomes easier to just automatically choose the best response to that remark that annoyed us. To choose the generous thing to do. But many of us our coordinates aren't quite there yet. So as we're growing and developing still, it's not easy to break out of our ways that are unhealthy, whether they're our thought patterns, our physical habits, or the temptations that lead us to them. But there's so much good resources out there. I've actually recognized this pattern in psychology articles, mental health articles, advice from counselors. That what do you do to break a habit that you don't want to have? Okay, habits are actually good when they're good habits. But what do you do when you have a habit that you don't want to have? You need to create a healthy habit in place of the unhealthy habit. So here's the thing, it needs to replace it. I know some people who are like, oh, I really want to get rid of this bad habit, so I'm going to do a prayer condition in the morning. But then when that time in the evening comes along that they usually do that bad habit, there's nothing, it's really hard to ignore temptation when that's right in front of you and there's nothing else to look at. So we have to create something that when that temptation shows up, then we send up a flag like, oh, this is the thing that I told myself that I'm going to do something else with. So the psychologists all say, if you have a habit of smoking and you go out to have a smoke after dinner, then after dinner, as soon as you get that feeling, then you say, I'm going to take a walk around the neighborhood. And then every time you get that feeling, you replace it with this good feelings of exercise. What's that hormone that you get when you exercise? Endorphins. There we go. Or it could be, if I get this feeling of temptation, I'm going to call my mentor. Or I'm going to do 10 push-ups. Or I'm going to whip out my Bible and read 3 pages. And then it's this like intention of, okay, so this is the point. Rather than, because you already have a relationship with this negative thing, right? You already have a relationship. And as we mentioned earlier, once you have a relationship, it's very easy to continue this relationship. And you can't, and it's very hard to just stop cold turkey and tell yourself, I'm not going to do that anymore, without creating a new relationship. Because when you create a new relationship, that's where the energy comes from. That's where the power comes from. So instead of being dominated by something that you already have a relationship with, you instead become the subject. You become the owner of your actions by creating something new. Good give and take action. This actually is demonstrated very well in the Bible and Divine Principle with the story of Adam and Eve and Lucifer in the Garden of Eden. So the basic gist of the story, which most people know, is that Adam and Eve, God created beautiful Garden of Eden, created his children, and he told them to be fruitful and to multiply and have dominion. And he gave them one rule: do not eat of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Right? But, as we know, Lucifer, who left his proper position due to his excessive desire, and Eve, who wanted to open her eyes and become like God before the time was ripe, formed a common base and began give and take action. The power of the unprincipled love generated by their give and take led them to the fall. So this was not an inevitable happenstance. Had Eve not responded to this temptation, right, the energy that she was receiving from Lucifer, if she had not responded to Lucifer's advances, hadn't had give and take with them, she would not have fallen. But you can't deny that the temptation was there. It's hard to avoid temptation when it's knocking on the door, when it's right there in front of you. So, actually, and it's not explicitly stated in the Divine Principle, but True Father said many times, if Eve had instead, when that temptation was there, if she had instead gone to Adam or called out to God and asked, why do I feel tempted? Or can I spend some time with you? Or remind me again, what was that thing you said? I want to be your daughter. I want to follow your words. And if she had then, said those things or made that action, then there would be an energy created there that would have overcome the negative energy. That would be stronger than the promptings of Lucifer. So in many ways, we're just dealing with the exact same things in our life, but it expresses itself so many different ways, right? But the point is, what can I intentionally have give and take with? What can I create a relationship with that will create positive energy with me, that will sustain my soul, that will multiply in good things in my life? But I do want to say something here about mistakes, because Eve did make the mistake. I also made the mistake in my enrollment. We make mistakes. And part of what I'm saying is that we shouldn't dwell on these mistakes, just constantly, so bad, I can't believe I did that. I'm always making mistakes. Right? That's like creating a negative energy spiral, right? However, I'm also not saying that we should just ignore them or pretend that they didn't happen. Sometimes that's a little easier to do, especially if it doesn't, if everybody else can't see my mistake. Oh no, it didn't happen. Just sweep it underneath the rug. That actually isn't healthy either. But there's a difference between dwelling on our mistakes and thinking about myself, how it affects me, how bad I am. It's actually all centered on me still. There's a difference between that and then going to God or going to the person that you hurt and acknowledging it to them. Say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I hurt your heart. I'm sorry I disappointed you. It's the fastest way to give it up. And then to say, I'm going to take this as a lesson, and I'm going to do better next time. That was the way I felt after I had to say, Mike, I can't believe I did this. And I just have to acknowledge I made a mistake here. And I feel like I have to do that to my daughter too, even though she doesn't really understand everything that's going on. But in my heart, I'm acknowledging to my daughter, I'm sorry I messed this up, but I'll make a great school year for you one way or another, no matter what. Actually, True Father has said that even after Eve fell, had she then gone to God and Adam and said, I made a mistake. What should I do? I want to be yours. I want to be your daughter. I want to stand in your love. I know that's what I'm created to be, and that's what I want to do. Adam and God could have restored Eve quickly. So the point is actually not to never make a mistake, but to acknowledge it, take responsibility for it, not dwell on it, because Eve was fearful, right? So she tried to make it right all on her own, hide her mistakes. Oh no, it wasn't me. And then they all blamed each other afterwards, right? God said, Adam, what happened? It was Eve's fault. Eve, what happened? It was Lucifer's fault, right? Now we all make mistakes, and none of us are perfect. But once we can acknowledge it and give it to God, then we have the space, then we have the emotional energy to create a new relationship with God, with whoever we hurt, with our environment, and focus on what we can do. It kind of sets that aside, because a lot of times people say, just have a positive attitude and put a smile on your face. But when we're thinking about all the bad things that we've done, it's not helpful to say those things. So take responsibility, and then create positive give and take relationships with things in your life, whether it's your thoughts, whether it's with God's word, whether it's with people. But the point is, this is a spiritual law. What we have give and take with determines our experience in life. So examine, what am I spending my time on? What do my thoughts go to? And if we find something that we're not proud of, or it doesn't give us fulfillment and joy, then let's find something else to replace that energy. But it's hard to let go when we're in a relationship already with something that's not helpful to us, that's not healthy. But God created us with this choice, and sometimes we feel trapped, but we're really not. God created us all with the intention and the purpose to become his true sons and daughters, and that's the only goal God has for us. There is no other destination for us. So no matter where you think you are or how bad you think you might be, there's always a path that leads to God. And so we need to find the things along the way to interact with, to make a relationship with, that give us the energy to go that way. So that is the first spiritual law that we wanted to share in our series, and Pastor Mike will share something else next week. But I hope that can kind of set the stage. It's like the first thing in the divine principle. There's only a few paragraphs on it, but basics are important. They set the stage for everything else. So with that, please join me in prayer. Heavenly Parent, good morning. Thank you so much for another beautiful Sunday. We're so grateful for the beautiful weather that allows us all to come together. So grateful to be having church every week now. We miss our fellowship together, and we miss this time that we spend with you together, Heavenly Parent. I pray that as we begin this week, that we can take a few moments to examine our life a little bit, to maybe spend a day recording and taking note of how much time do I spend on each thing, and does that bring me joy? Is it true joy, or is it simply instant gratification? And that when we begin to recognize things, then we can make good choices of what we really want to engage with, what we really want, which is you, Heavenly Parent. Thank you so much for your energy and your love, which just never fails on us, Heavenly Parent. Although many times we do make mistakes, we do get discouraged, but I pray that we can be strong enough to admit our mistakes, to take responsibility for them, to offer them to you, and then open the door to you, to allow you to work new ways in our life, because you have good plans for us, Heavenly Parent. We want to offer this Sunday to you, share it with each other, and I pray this in my name, Michael and Adonia Hentrick, blessed your family. Amen and adieu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pastor Adonia. I hope that each of you could have taken something away from that message for your week and for your life. We're going to have a little bit of reflection time now with music, and also if you haven't already given your offering, you can also do that at this time as well. have one last song, so I'd like to ask you to once again, please stand up, and we'll finish our service with, I believe, How Great Is Our God.
The splendor of the King, clothed in majesty, let all the earth rejoice, all the earth rejoice. He wraps himself in light, darkness tries to hide, and trembles at his voice, and trembles at his voice. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? Oh, see how great is our God. And age to age he stands, and time is in his hands, beginning and the end, beginning and the end. The Godhead three in one, Father, Spirit, Son, the Lion and the Lamb, the Lion and the Lamb. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? Oh, see how great is our God? How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? Oh, see how great is our God? Name above all names, worthy of all praise. My heart will sing, how great is our God. Name above all names, worthy of all praise. My heart will sing, how great is our God. How great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God? Oh, we'll see how great is our God.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great week. Thank you for a great service. And we'll see you next week because we're having service every week now. And go Chiefs, yeah? God bless.
Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Even in the roadblocks, even through the rough spots, when you're feeling you're giving all that you got, I'm with you in the next step, giving you the next breath. I'll be the voice saying you're gonna make it. there on your own, you are never alone. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Just keep on singing, and keep on dancing. Joy will be your banner, and my love will be your anthem. And you may never know what your tomorrow holds, but you can know that I am holding your tomorrow. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine, yeah. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight, fighting the good fight. Until you stop breathing, till you stop bleeding, until your heart stops kick drum beating. When it's hard times, when it's long days, and the enemy is right up in your face. When your back's against the ropes, and you're feeling all alone. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Even in the roadblocks, even through the rough spots, when you're feeling you're giving all that you got, I'm with you in the next step, giving you the next breath. I'll be the voice saying you're gonna make it. When you're out there on your own, you are never alone. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Just keep on singing, stop bleeding, until your heart stops kick drum beating. When it's hard times, when it's long days, and the enemy is right up in your face. When your back's against the ropes, and you're feeling all alone. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Even in the roadblocks, even through the rough spots, when you're feeling you're giving all that you got, I'm with you in the next step, giving you the next breath. I'll be the voice saying you're gonna make it. When you're out there on your own, you are never alone. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Just keep on singing, and keep on dancing. Joy will be your banner, and my love will be your anthem. And you may never know what your tomorrow holds, but you can know that I am holding your tomorrow. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine, yeah. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight, fighting the good fight. Until you stop breathing, till you stop bleeding, until your heart stops kick drum beating. When it's hard times, when it's long days, and the enemy is right up in your face. When your back's against the ropes, and you're feeling all alone. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Even in the roadblocks, even through the rough spots, when you're feeling you're giving all that you got, I'm with you in the next step, giving you the next breath. I'll be the voice saying you're gonna make it. When you're out there on your own, you are never alone. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Just keep on singing, and keep on dancing. you stop bleeding, until your heart stops kick drum beating. When it's hard times, when it's long days, and the enemy is right up in your face. When your back's against the ropes, and you're feeling all alone. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Even in the roadblocks, even through the rough spots, when you're feeling you're giving all that you got, I'm with you in the next step, giving you the next breath. I'll be the voice saying you're gonna make it. When you're out there on your own, you are never alone. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Just keep on singing, and keep on dancing. Joy will be your banner, and my love will be your anthem. And you may never know what your tomorrow holds, but you can know that I am holding your tomorrow. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine, yeah. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight, fighting the good fight. Until you stop breathing, till you stop bleeding, until your heart stops kick drum beating. When it's hard times, when it's long days, and the enemy is right up in your face. When your back's against the ropes, and you're feeling all alone. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Even in the roadblocks, even through the rough spots, when you're feeling you're giving all that you got, I'm with you in the next step, giving you the next breath. I'll be the voice saying you're gonna make it. When you're out there on your own, you are never alone. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Just keep on singing, stop bleeding, until your heart stops kick drum beating. When it's hard times, when it's long days, and the enemy is right up in your face. When your back's against the ropes, and you're feeling all alone. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Even in the roadblocks, even through the rough spots, when you're feeling you're giving all that you got, I'm with you in the next step, giving you the next breath. I'll be the voice saying you're gonna make it. When you're out there on your own, you are never alone. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Just keep on singing, and keep on dancing. Joy will be your banner, and my love will be your anthem. And you may never know what your tomorrow holds, but you can know that I am holding your tomorrow. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine, yeah. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight, fighting the good fight. Until you stop breathing, till you stop bleeding, until your heart stops kick drum beating. When it's hard times, when it's long days, and the enemy is right up in your face. When your back's against the ropes, and you're feeling all alone. Keep fighting the good fight. Keep letting your light shine. 'Cause I'm never gonna leave you, always gonna see you through to the other side. Keep fighting the good, fighting the good, fighting the good fight, good fight. Even in the roadblocks, even through the rough spots, when you're feeling you're giving all that you got, I'm with you in the next step, giving you the next breath. I'll be the voice saying you're gonna make it. When you're out there on your own,